You're well? Brilliant. I'm good too, thanks. All ready for today? Great. So, today's lesson, we're going to be looking at immunity and white blood cells. So, previously, we covered what white blood cells are and what they do. Today, we'll be looking at their role in providing immunity. So, your lesson objectives for today is by the end, you will be able to describe to me what immunity is, and you'll also be able to describe to me the 3 ways in which our white blood cells help provide immunity. So, if we start with our starter activity, we're going to do a short recap on what we learned last lesson. So, I want you to recall, where are white blood cells found within the human body and what is their role? So, if I repeat that question, where are white blood cells found within our human body and what is their role? So, I'll give you a minute to think about that and we'll discuss the answers. Here you go. So, if we start with the first half, where are white blood cells found? Okay, so you got half of the question, right? So you're halfway there. They are found within our body, but remember, we need to be specific in our answers. So every cell is found in a specific part. Where are the white blood cells found? Brilliant, in the blood, yeah? And remember, it's in the name, white blood cells. Now the second half of the question, what is their role? Can you remember their role? Great, spot on. Their role is to help fight diseases. Now today we're going to look at how fighting diseases provides immunity. So before I start with describing immunity, I want you to brainstorm or quickly think of what you believe immunity is. So I'll give you 30 seconds for that. So what do you believe immunity is? Something to do with fighting off a disease. You're kind of there, but we'll hopefully improve that answer by the end. So, being immune means that you cannot get the disease a second time. So you cannot get that disease again. However, it does not mean that you cannot get reinfected, but it does mean your body will fight off the pathogens before it makes you feel ill. Now let me break that down. So, you can become reinfected, so you can feel some of the symptoms of that illness, but it won't be as severe as the first time. So for example, the first time you ever got the cold, you probably would have had the full-on effect. You would have had breathlessness, runny nose, headache, but as you get the cold, you will see that sometimes you get less symptoms, and that's because your body has become immune to that disease. Now, we're going to do a quick knowledge check on your understanding before we move on. Yeah, so you're familiar with these knowledge checks. So for this one, we're going to do thumbs up if we think it's right, thumbs down if we think it's false. So true, false. So the first statement, if you are immune to a disease, it means you can get the disease again. So is this true or is this false? It's actually false. Remember, if you are immune, you cannot get that disease again. And I know it can become quite confusing, so it takes a while to get your hand around, but hopefully by the end, we would have reiterated so many times that it would make sense. So it means that you cannot get the disease again. Is that fair? Great. So what about the second one? Being immune means that you will never get affected by a disease again. Again, thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. Brilliant, it's false. Well done. So, being immune means that you can get affected again, but what is the difference from the first time? Excellent. You won't get as severe symptoms, so you won't feel as ill. And that leads on nicely to the third statement. If you're immune to a disease, you'll not get as ill the next time. Is this true or false? Brilliant, we just covered it, it's true. So at least we've got one truth in there. Yep. So now we move on to how white blood cells help with immunity. So white blood cells help fight off immunity in 3 key ways. So the first way is that some white blood cells ingest or take in the pathogen so that they cannot make you ill. So by ingest and engulf, we mean by, for example, eating it. So say this is our pathogen here, and this is our white blood cells. When the pathogen comes in contact, the white blood cells engulfs the pathogen and it destroys it. So our pathogen gets destroyed inside the white blood cell. Does that make sense? But of course, we cannot use eat in our answers. And why is that? Brilliant, because we have to use scientific and keywords in our answers. Yep, that's what gets us the marks. So the second way is that some white blood cells produce special chemicals called antibodies. These target particular bacterial viruses, which are a type of brilliant pathogen because they cause diseases and they destroy them. But you need to remember that you need a unique antibody to every type of pathogen because every pathogen is different. So for example, if you got a flu and if you, for example, got corona, God forbid, if you got one of those diseases, they both will have different pathogens. Yep, so your body will need to provide two different antibodies to target those two different diseases. Does that make sense? Yep, great. So what they do is they produce these chemicals called antibodies. So let's say these are antibodies and this is our pathogen. They lock on to those pathogens and destroy them again. Does that make sense? Brilliant. Now the third way is that some white blood cells produce antitoxins. So some of our pathogens, our bad pathogens, come along and they produce these toxins or poisons. And these poisons are in our body. Now what the white blood cells do is they produce antitoxins. So they'll produce these antitoxins. Our antitoxins will go along, latch on to those toxins and again destroy them. So they work in a similar way to antibodies and antitoxins. Okay, so they have similar properties, but they just fight off different things. So antibodies are destroying the actual pathogen, whereas antitoxins are destroying the toxins released by the pathogen. That makes sense? So what are we going to do now? Great, another knowledge check. So this time I want you to stay seated if you think it's true and stand up if you think it's false. So first statement, white blood cells are found in the liver. Stay seated if you think it's true, stand up if you think it's false. Well, I'm going to stand up for this one because it is false. Remember, white blood cells are found in your blood, not in your liver. Yeah, well done for that one. It was correct. A pathogen is used to fight off infections. Is this true? Or stand up if you think it's false. Yep, again, you were standing up. Great, excellent, that's right. Pathogens are not used to fight off infections. What are they? Yeah, they cause the infection or disease. Third one, white blood cells produce toxins which are used to destroy the antitoxins. Let me repeat that. White blood cells produce toxins which are used to destroy the antitoxins. Are you going to sit for true or stand for false? Yep, brilliant. Standing is true. Sorry, it's false. So white blood cells produce antitoxins, correct. They produce antitoxins to fight off the toxins produced by the pathogens, yes. And last of all, white blood cells engulf pathogens to destroy them. So I want you to stay seated for true, stand up for false. Brilliant. So you can stay seated for this one because it is true. So that was a lot standing there, but always can do with a bit of exercise, can't we? Okay, so as a recap now, we'll finish off. Pathogens are disease-causing microorganisms, so you already knew that, well done. Immunity means that you cannot get a disease again, but can still feel symptoms of the disease, but obviously less severe than the first. White blood cells are found in your blood, not the liver. White blood cells fight off pathogens in 3 key ways, which are engulfing, producing antibodies, and producing antitoxins. So, are there any questions regarding anything we've learned today? Yep, so remember, immunity means that you cannot get the disease again, but you can become reinfected. That's right, well done. Any other questions? No? Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Well done for your excellent effort today, and I'll see you next session. Thank you.